Today on The Daily Charge, what's dominating Prime Day, how much are your kids on their phone, breaking up big tech, and Area 51.
Good morning and welcome to CNET's Daily Charge. It's Tuesday, July 16th. I'm Ben Fox-Rubin.
And I'm Joni Salzman.
Let's take a look at today's headlines. Okay, so Amazon offered an update on how its Prime Day sale is going so far and said, everything is great, please continue shopping, people. The company also mentioned that this is really no surprise, the Fire TV Stick and the Echo Dot were two of its best sellers so far. This makes sense to me because they make those products, they were able to basically gauge what the prices were specifically for them, and those generally are the items that never go out of stock because they make them, so they have a ton of them.
Yeah, and then there are also some of the lowest price point deals that are consistent throughout the day. You don't have to worry about it being a lightning deal and missing it. It's going to be there and it's getting heavily promoted because Amazon wants to sell its own stuff.
Yes. So, Joan, did you buy anything on Prime Day? Because
I
I can tell you, I did not buy anything really all that interesting.
It's not over yet.
Yeah, we'll see. So,
You sold me out yesterday, so I'm going to tell you out that your wife bought
go
socks
ahead. Yes.
for Prime Day.
And I just got Reynolds wrap for $7 right before the show.
I've spent hundreds of dollars because I knew that I needed, we need a new food processor, and so I just waited until Prime Day.
Yeah.
And that's how Prime Day has kind of changed summer shopping. It's created like a wait to buy moment that didn't exist 6 years ago.
Yeah, absolutely. Anyway, next up, a new survey from the phone comparison site, I'm going to struggle to say this, Cell found that 42% of kids ages 4 to 14 are using phones over 30 hours a week. I can tell you my kids are probably among this, and they're in the younger set. So, Joan, do you restrict the kids' phone usage, or is this at all surprising to you?
Yeah, and I think one of the hard things to really understand from stats like this is, like, what is using a phone? Like, I don't let my kids have a phone, but when I need them to be calm for like 3 minutes, I'll let them watch a video on mine. Is that using a phone? And they're under 4.
It is using a phone, but it's like calling grandma using a phone.
Exactly,
I'm not really
doing
sure.
FaceTime with grandparents. So, there's a lot of, and I think that's where the numbers are hard to see where the applications are really helpful. And one of the stats that they have is that I think 70% of parents say that cell phone usage is helpful for their kids' development.
Yeah. I think so too. Obviously, they need to learn how to pinch and zoom at 2 years old. That's what happens in my house. Either way, more than 1.2 million people have signed up to attend the September 20th event in the Nevada desert to storm Area 51 to find out if there are aliens there. I would obviously love to be at this event, except for the fact that it's fake. It's not a real event. Whatever. What are you gonna do?
The event is fake, but the memes are real.
This has turned into a bit of a sensation online, and to me, it's actually kind of fun to see that sometimes the internet can be fun, and granted,
without darkness under.
Right. Most of the time it is darkness, but at the same time,
I guess, like government conspiracy. It's like the cutest government conspiracy, the quaintest one that we have going on right now.
Well, the other dark part of it is that the Air Force jumped in and said, for God's sakes, people do not show up. We really don't want you here because I don't know.
It's an Air Force base.
We might shoot you. Please don't show up. So yeah, definitely. So anyway, we wanted to get up to our lead story today. This afternoon, the House Judiciary Committee will host Facebook, Amazon, Google, and Apple to discuss antitrust issues and competition. So we talked about this a little bit yesterday, but Joan, as far as regulation, breaking up big tech, what are your expectations as far as is any of this stuff going to happen, or are we just going to talk about it a lot?
Right. So we know the track record that so far there hasn't been a lot of action yet, but it's clear we've had to cover more congressional hearings with big tech companies in the last 2 years than we have that I can remember in memory in the years before that. So that's the first stage to there being some sort of action. It doesn't necessarily have to be action in Congress. We're focused on Congress today because there are these 2 hearings going on. But there could be regulatory action. We're hearing about how there could be antitrust action taking place at the FTC or the FCC. So there's definitely an impetus among leaders that are in power right now, and it's a conversation for the 2020 elections too. It's a big election campaign talking point right now too.
So, Wall Street Journal late last week talked about how the FTC came to an agreement with Facebook where there's going to be a $5 billion fine about just the way that Facebook had inappropriately used data, had just misused a lot of the user data. $5 billion sounds like a really big number. I know what your answer is going to be to this, but I think it's really important to discuss. Do you think that's going to change anything on the side of Facebook or big tech? That there are these monster fines that came out, not only from the FTC, that hasn't actually been confirmed yet. That was just a report, but also from Europe. The Europeans have also fined big tech companies billions of dollars too.
So the things I think that are important to keep in mind with the $5 million fine, should it come to pass, are it would be the biggest such fine in the US against a tech company, I believe, correct? So it's meaningful in that respect. B, $5 billion is like a week of Facebook's like earnings. It's like nothing. It's like a rounding error.
I think they just made $5 billion.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So that speaks to the scope of this problem. These companies have gotten so massive that even the biggest fine ever levied against one in the United States still isn't a deterrent force.
Yeah,
just by fine
that's a really
alone.
good point. It doesn't change how it is that they make money in the first place.
Right.
They're going to continue minting cash regardless. So.
But I do think the fact that that fine would be happening in the US, whereas previously those multi-billion-dollar fines had been happening in Europe. The US is where these companies are based. And so it, I think, would have more force, not necessarily in the dollar amount or euro amount, if it were a fine here versus in Europe, but in terms of the tenor, the fact that this is where these companies live, this is where most of their workers are, it would signal that things aren't going to be able to stay the same.
Yeah,
At least there's
I would
the
agree with
possibility
you
that there's going
that
to
it
be
would
some
be
sort of
potentially more significant for sure.
Yeah.
All right. Now that we've gotten through the meat of the show, we have a little housekeeping to get out of the way. I'm going to try to get through this. First, we would like to thank everyone for joining us here on our new format. We'll have some tweaks in the coming weeks, and we always want your feedback, so please sound off in the chat or in the comments or flag us on Twitter. Also, for the audio podcast subscribers, you can now find the Daily Charge on Spotify, as well as all our prior platforms. That includes iTunes, Stitcher, Google, Amazon Echo, you name it. And lastly, we're going to try something new for the audio podcast. We are now going to publish 2 versions of the show across the channel. One is the regular core 5-ish minute podcast with just the need to know content. And then there's going to be a longer version with bonus stuff that we do in the post show, from special segments to the Q&A, anything else that we don't get to publish in the audio channels on the regular. You can find that in the same feed, published on the day as well after the regular 5-minute version, and it will be called the Daily Charge Supercharged Edition, just so you guys know the difference. And now it's time, as always, to talk to you folks in the chat, to take your questions and comments about today's topics so we can keep the conversation going. BVG, what do the people want to know? I can't believe I actually managed to get through that. Thank God, I have terrible vision.
Oh, I'm so proud of you, Ben.
Well, you let me practice ahead of time. I think that helped.
Yeah, it does. The secrets to a professional broadcast, everybody out there watching. CKT, shout out to Devin, that's his 10-year-old son. He says he's not really comfortable buying him a phone at that age. And I'm curious what other listeners, I know you guys got kids, what anybody thinks is the appropriate age for a kid to start having their own mobile phone, whether that's a phone with kind of restricted access, something more of a kid-friendly design phone, or like a full-on smartphone. When do you think is the right time and the rite of passage for something like that?
Okay, so my kids are 6 and 3. The twins are 3. So that's pretty easy that, like, no, that's not the time for them to get the phone. But 10 to me seems at least a bit on the cusp of like, hey, this is a good time to start having this conversation and try to figure out when is a good time to get a phone, whether it's a smartphone or a dumb phone. One of the interesting things that I've definitely heard from parents with older kids, with teens, is like they want to get a phone in the kid's hand because that way they're easier to access, whether they're at, I don't
contact.
know. Yeah, their friend's house or whatever.
Yeah.
So it's just kind of like a phone transponder. We always know where they are. So.
The survey said that among the 1,000+ people that were surveyed for this particular cell study,
yeah.
that the highest percentage comes to people parents get phones for their 11 to 12-year-olds. There's about a quarter of kids that have cell phones. They're 11 or 12. About 20% they're 13 to 14, and then another 19, it's like 9 to 10. So like around 9 years old is when it really starts to become the norm, between like 9 and 14, and the other like 1/3 is ages under that. Yeah. So, which seems to make sense. That's when kids are kind of have more independence, and the main reason that parents get kids' phones is for that ability to have them in contact. More so than, although the most popular reason that they give kids phones is so that your kids will leave you alone.
Really?
Yeah.
I guess
keep them
you could
entertained.
do the same thing with like a Nintendo or
right,
whatever.
Right,
yeah.
Television. Like, there's been plenty of fake babysitters in technology.
Yes.
for a long time.
Actually, that's a pretty good idea. If I give my kids like a phone or a tablet, then they won't take up the television as much.
Yeah.
Because they do not like watching sports. That's usually like the part of the day that like causes the most angst is that I'm watching like football on a Sunday and they're like, what's going on?
See, my kid doesn't get to watch TV very much at all. And so when we have sports on, she's like, I don't care. I'll take anything. I will watch.
That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Deprive them of TV and they'll watch anything.
One other thing from this study that I thought was funny was they asked like, what are the most popular activities for kids on their phones, and the least popular one was doing homework, which made me laugh because of course.
Yeah.
Playing games was one, doing homework was.
Everybody knows doing homework sucks. Okay. Any more questions?
Well, we got great feedback coming in about different kids' ages. Ryan says, my boy Gavin, thinking about maybe 12-ish for him. Jay from Jersey says, no kids, but I got my first phone in 7th grade, which I think that's about when I got my first phone as well. Give or take, I'd have to kind of like really go back down memory lane, which is a foggy path at this point, but that sounds about right. CKT says 14, leading into 15, closer to when they get a driver's permit. I think that's a good way to look at it. Ryan says, I got my first phone in 18, back in 03. Storm King says, my daughter has a normal smartphone, she's 11. I mean, obviously, lots of different kids have lots of different maturity levels, can handle different things at different stages. I'm curious what just the mean is coming out of all of this. And here's a great counterpoint from Timothy Dew. More and more summer camps and programs are promoting coding and other technological, electronic type programs for kids. So the increase in phone and computer usage is no big deal. That's an excellent point to be made. But there's a big difference between a kid being electrical engineering genius and screwing around with Angry Birds.
Well, they have to know how to shop on Prime Day, obviously. So I definitely did not get a phone in 7th grade. I don't remember when it was specifically, but I don't know. Maybe I'm just like really old.
I'm just old, so I didn't get a phone until college, but that's not because my parents had a real long leash or anything. It's just because like phones weren't super
We
normal.
are similarly aged, so I believe.
Old. Yeah, we're both super old.
We're very old. We're just, what? You just turned 55 this year, so congratulations.
But you're 10 months ahead of me, so.
I'm 10 months ahead of you, yeah. So I turned 55 sooner. So yeah.
Anyway.
Here's a great comment from Ryan. He says, I'm with Joan. I had things I wanted to buy on Amazon and just waited till yesterday to buy them. I didn't look for any specific deals. I kind of followed suit with that, but none of the stuff I was looking for showed up in the Prime feed. And then Jay from Jersey says, I bought a few things on Prime Day. We're curious, what did you end up getting? Did you think the deals were actually worth it? You hit strike gold, or did you kind of fall flat? I didn't buy anything. I was too distracted here kind of getting the new show off the ground, so I didn't do any shopping at all. Did you guys?
Very little.
I bought a
little.
lot.
Socks and Reynolds wrap. That was basically it. I almost got a Sonos Beam, but we don't have a sound bar, so I mean, it was a lot of money to get a sound bar for the first time. So I was talked out of it, which is good. I think I'm happier holding on to that money.
I still need to talk to friend of the podcast, David Katzmeyer, about whether I should get a new TV now or wait until Black Friday to get my new TV.
I mean, if you don't get one today, I would probably say wait until Black Friday.
Well, yeah, but that's what I mean. Do I buy it today or do I wait? That's what I need to ask him.
Yeah.
Friend of the podcast.
I think they have a Fire TV edition.
Yeah.
That is like pretty cheap and that you could potentially get, but you're probably not going to want to buy that.
But I bought some of those bladeless Dyson fans. I'm real excited about that because we have to use lots of fans and they're really loud in our apartment, and so I want these super quiet Dyson.
You're like a big Dyson lover. Yeah.
Don't those things usually like shelf for like $400 or something?
Yeah, but it depends on whether or not it like also does like air filtering, and I'm like, I live in New York, our air is terrible, so there's not much I can.
Anytime I'm
gonna be bad.
on the market for a dustbuster, I always look at the Dyson dustbuster and
Yeah.
I'm like, this thing looks amazing. This is
love
gonna
ours.
change my life. And I always balk. I'm always
You
like,
always
I'm gonna
do.
get
You can't
I'm
pull the
gonna
trigger,
get
man.
the $50 one that's not gonna last more than 6 months.
We
So,
love ours.
yeah.
We love it so much. We
maybe
have like
next
2 of
time.
them.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, let me know if you need one of them needs a home. So.
Shout out to Jay from Jersey who did the math. He's figured out the mean for the kids getting their in the phone ecosystem is 13.8 years.
There you go.
Thank you. This is
sounds
why
about right.
I like having other people do my job for me.
Sure.
Swinging back over to Amazon Prime Day, Tim says I was in the market for a TV wall mount. Bought it last week for $33. Now it's $9. Can't complain
Wow.
there.
Ouch. That's some Prime Day FOMO right there. You gotta wait. If it's like a week or two beforehand, unless you desperately need it,
Yeah.
it's at least worth seeing if it's on sale. I've definitely been in the situation where I've waited, like I created a list and I waited and none of the stuff was on sale, but it's at least worth seeing if it's gonna be reduced by a couple bucks, whatever.
All right, let's take a couple more questions and comments before we call it a day. What actually defines when a company is too big and they need to break up? Is there like a threshold for upcoming companies that they should be aware of as they grow?
Yeah. I don't think that there's no like litmus test for how big a company needs to be before it gets broken up. But there are behaviors, like for example, one of the things that people are considering about Google is YouTube and how it treats its partners, people that tried to build their own businesses off of the fact that YouTube has become the biggest video system on the internet. Even though some of YouTube's actions would seem to like save people money by making it easier to use its own ad system and stuff like that, and less easy to use competitors. That normally is what people like when they're looking at competitive concerns. Does it make things cheaper for consumers or for other people in the marketplace? But there are these things like going against your own best interest. So if you make a kind of competitive decision that doesn't make any business sense other than it's going to just drive competitors out of business, that's a reason for there to be an anti-competitive system, even if it ends up being something that's beneficial for consumers in the end. So like I guess my point is saying is that it's very complicated. There's no like one size fits all, you're a monopoly, now you're too big, you need to be broken up, which is part of the reason why nothing has happened so far. Tech companies have been really great to the US economy and the world economy, and it's only been in the last few years where we've noticed and been paying attention to the negative repercussions of their size that people have gotten less gung-ho about them being as big as they are.
Yeah, and I think you hit it right that one of the primary metrics that had been utilized, I think, for decades in the United States has been whether it's harming consumers on price. So a company becomes a monopoly, let's say, on chewing gum, and then chewing gum, because there were a bunch of competitors, used to be $1, now it's $15. You see this a lot in the pharmaceutical world too, that, a company is the only one that makes this drug and can price it however they want. So the government obviously wants to ensure that there aren't monopolies, so there is price competition and that drives down price. One of the problems, and I cover Amazon, so related to Amazon, they're actually driving down prices and gaining more market share. So there's this whole rewriting of the rules, trying to say, okay, well, maybe we shouldn't just pay attention to price. We should pay attention to the fact that they're pushing all the competitors out of the market as well. And what is this actually doing to the landscape? My expectation would be that there are going to be some of that conversation going on during the House Judiciary Committee hearing today, because the government's basically trying to find out, well, okay, the price isn't really the issue. We're seeing that on Prime Day right now. People are saving money, but how is this harming the marketplace otherwise? So definitely a good question.
I'm just kind of curious, what is the agenda for the proceedings? I know we've got Facebook, Google, and who else is Apple?
Apple and Amazon.
And what is the lineup? Who is representing? And are we going to be able to see these hearings in any way, shape, or form? And when?
Yeah, I think they're probably going to be on C-SPAN if you're interested in watching them. Otherwise, you might be able to find them on the House Judiciary site. There's probably going to be a link there. Sorry if I don't have like a specific answer at this point. I'm going to be fishing around to try to find them as well. The four representatives for those companies are not big names. They're mostly from public policy or from legal. So it's not like you're going to be seeing Mark Zuckerberg show up or Jeff Bezos, but that might be just fine. These are folks that deal with these things on a daily basis, as opposed to being the CEO of a company and therefore handling all kinds of different elements. So we might be able to get a little bit more nitty gritty and a little bit deeper into the whole thing by hearing from these folks, even though they're not household names at all.
All right, we got a really good one from Jay that's going to put you guys on the spot. You ready?
Okay.
What are your solutions for keeping big tech companies in check, Joan and Ben?
Yeah, unfortunately, a time machine could have been useful to tell, I don't know, regulators several years ago that like Facebook shouldn't buy Instagram and maybe Amazon shouldn't buy Zappos. Like that's such a lame answer, but I really do think that, you know, some of these problems have existed for years and they were caused by a lot of mergers and acquisitions very early on, where these huge companies were able to purchase their competitors just as their competitors were getting off the ground.
Yeah. I think just as a reporter and someone that likes to see stories unfold, I think the idea of breaking up the companies would be really interesting.
Would be very interesting.
Because it would be so... Something like that hasn't really happened in a really long time. I don't know it well enough to say exactly how long, but it's been a really long time since
the most
company...
recent effort was with Microsoft.
And that failed, so I don't know when it's actually... I mean, like, I imagine, like, was Big Oil or something like that?
Previous to that was AT&T in the 70s.
Okay, there you go.
Yeah,
so it's been like 40 years.
I like recently wrote about this with Maggie. That's why I know.
Right.
So that's...
You don't need to excuse it. No, I'm glad. So it's been like 40, 50 years since a gigantic company had to be broken up. And so I would be really interested to watch how that unfolds and what repercussions that it has. So that's not like what I think could be the least disruptive or the least destructive way to do it. But I'm really interested to see what would happen if that's what actually comes to pass.
Like hindsight is 2020 in this, but AT&T, when you look back at it, you're like, of course that was a monopoly. They controlled all regional, local, and long-distance calling in the United States. There was nobody else that did it, and this is a huge and important service. So regulators, I don't envy their position, but is Facebook's service just as important as long-distance and local calling? You know, like that. Those are some of the decisions that they're going to have to decide on. That's what some of the things that they're going to have to figure out. It's the same thing with Amazon or like Apple's App Store. Like, is this a monopoly? And if it is a monopoly, is it so critical and so significant that, you know, we need to break it up to ensure competition? So, I think it's a really fascinating area to just really delve into. But, the potential of a breakup is still pretty slim, I would say.
With Apple and iTunes, one of the things, like, there's really easy ways to solve that problem. And that's where there are very specific instances of like, this is how it's clearly to one camp not being fair. It's easier to be strategic about fixing those problems. Like with iTunes, it's like you eliminate this tax or you tweak it in some way and everything's kind of going to be a little bit better. But yeah, I get really interested in like, what do you do with somebody like Google?
I don't know.
They control
What are you going to break up with Google? That's one of the harder ones to figure out.
Well, YouTube and Google.
Okay, that one for sure.
Yeah.
But Google is so dominant in search that there's nothing specifically.
Yeah, but maybe break off hardware from search. It has to be a separate hardware company or a separate
Android specifically.
Artificial intelligence company. I don't know. Like, they're all kind of enmeshed with each other because they're all enmeshed with advertising. Like, that's the only way that they really make any money.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think it would be so interesting if we.
There are a lot of ways to consider it, for sure. So, yeah, definitely.
All right, good news. We have just enough time to talk about Area 51.
Oh, sweet. Okay.
CKT wants to know what do we think is there, and I want to know, are we sending Alfred as our resident Naruto runner?
Okay, first of all, yes, he's very good at Naruto running, so we definitely would send him. And second, what do I think is there? Just some file cabinets.
An Air Force base.
The most interesting
There
thing
are
would be
planes there.
right. The most interesting thing would be like a big room, Indiana Jones style, with a bunch of old artifacts in
Right.
it. That like maybe a ghost would come out.
No, the most interesting is there's like, if it's like populated by alien employees who are like
Okay.
drinking coffee on the coffee break and
Would that be as interesting as
Swapping-
file cabinets? I don't
No.
know.
no. I mean, I don't know.
I don't understand why this became popular. Area 51.
It's so ridiculous. It's
Area
Dude.
51 was hot in like when Independence Day came out, which is like what?
It's had its peaks and valleys.
It's
I
had its
mean,
peaks and valleys,
Like, yeah.
It's like I don't know. Maybe the internet like remembered that Area 51 existed, and we want to find out if this is legit.
I feel like, you know how there are like songs of summer? I feel like this is a meme of summer. Like there's some things that are just kind of like, it's a summertime meme, you know?
Oh my God, you're right. Independence Day came out in the summer, so yes, peaks and valleys, exactly. We're not going to remember this in the winter, unfortunately. So.
Also, well, Nevada is fine in the winter, I'm sure, but it's more fun to think of taking a vacation. Summer vacation to Area 51.
I like these theories.
Yeah.
It's a good idea.
I don't know. What's there? We'll never know. Or will we?
That was my X-Files
That was
impression.
pretty, that wasn't bad.
Oh, really? Okay.
No, it wasn't terrible.
I could go even higher.
Cool. Thanks for the copyright strike. Hey, congratulations, everybody. It's Ben's first day on the internet. This is called a meme.
Oh, weird. Okay.
Okay.
It's a meme. Is that what it is? I'm hearing that it's called a meme. Okay.
All right, everybody. That's going to wrap it up for us. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you again here tomorrow. And let's go ahead and leave it to Ben. Let's take us on out.
Oh God. Okay, here we go. That's a wrap on another edition of The Daily Charge. Hit like and subscribe so you can join us for the live stream weekday mornings here on YouTube, Periscope, and CNET.com/dailycharge. Check out the description below for links to today's stories and to subscribe to the audio podcast for The Daily Charge. I'm Ben Fox Rubin.
Joni Salzman.
Thanks for listening.